There were only 2,000 of these Hello Kitty Sega Dreamcast made. This was a Japan-only release, and this one's worth about $200-ish if we can get it working. The seller said it was broken, but I don't know what's wrong, so let's plug it in and see what it does. So far so good, let's put a disc in and see if it'll play a disc. This video is sponsored by Ugreen, more on them in a minute. We've got a brand new Japanese version of Sonic Adventure. Since this is a Japanese console, it does only take Japanese discs. Okay, it's sort of spinning. That could be a problem. Oh, here we go, it's spinning up. Sort of, maybe not. So it looks like we have an issue with the disc reader. It's also not coming up on the screen. Let's get this thing taken apart and see if we can figure it out. So this is my very first ever Sega Dreamcast disassembly and repair. In fact, I don't think I've ever even played one of these, so this is going to be a fun one. Okay, 4 screws out. Is that all we have? Does that loosen anything? Oh yeah. Anything connect? Wow, that's awesome. Look at that. 4 screws and the entire top plate comes off. That is amazing. This is in really nice condition though. Like, it's got some scratches on the graphics, but on the inside, like, there's no broken pieces. This looks really good for being such an old console. Okay, we will be replacing this battery, but other than that, let's take a look. I'm thinking we may have some issues with some capacitors here, and I don't actually see any problems on the power supply, but let's get this disk drive out and have a look at those ones. Now, always be super careful when you're working around power supplies. I never recommend it. All of these capacitors are still charged. So if you touch the wrong spots on this board, you can give yourself a nice shock. Unless you're experienced or working under someone with experience, just don't mess with it. It's not worth the shock. I've gotten it before and it's not fun. Power supply is out. Okay, easy enough. So this connector right here connects right there onto the disk drive. 3.3 volts, okay. Before we get to that, let's have a look under this plate at the main board and just see how that looks and see how the capacitors on that look. Here we go. All right, and there's the board. Oh, wow, we've got somebody did some sort of mod on this thing and did not do a good job. That looks not great. Let me get zoomed in here. I mean, it looks like it's maybe connected, but that is not ideal. All the rest of the chips look okay. So before we get to this, let's have a look at this disk drive. Since that's the main problem, I want to see if we can figure that out. I don't know if this would have anything to do with that, but let's have a look at the drive itself and see if we can figure anything out there. Let's have a look at this board. How are we connected here? So we're connected underneath here. Maybe we can do it from here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So disconnect it right here. There we go. Yeah. So here's the inside of that disk drive. This all actually looks pretty good in here. I think this has an adjustable laser, so we might be able to adjust that. So let's inspect this board and see what it looks like. I don't think I see any major issues on that side. And these maybe we have something down here. What is this? I'm not sure. I think maybe that's what it's supposed to look like, actually. I've just never seen that on a board. I have to have a look at that under the microscope. This capacitor here looks maybe bulged a little bit, but these don't look like they're leaking. I think maybe the best thing to do is to just replace them anyway. Oh, that one's definitely bulged. Let's see if I can get that on camera. That's gonna be really hard. Yeah, unfortunately can't really see it, but this one's got a bulge. And this one also does a little bit. So I think what we're gonna do is replace these capacitors and then we'll see what else we need to do to this thing. So there are a number of ways that we could remove all of these capacitors. The way I'm gonna use today is I'm just gonna bring my iron in and heat up one side while I lift with my tweezers or a pair of pliers or something. And then I'll come in and melt the other side with my iron and that will free the capacitor. Then I'll just come in and solder it down and then move on to the next one. It's really cool to see old tech and how it works, but I also love new tech, especially tech that can make my life easier. The Ugreen Nexode 100 watt charger does just that. It can provide a single device up to 100 watts and 5 amps of fast charging. That means you can charge your new MacBook super fast. In fact, it can charge the MacBook Air M2 to 55% in less than 30 minutes. Now, one of my favorite things about it is it can charge 4 devices all at once. In fact, I'm using it to charge my iPhone, my iPad, my MacBook Pro, and my Steam Deck all at the same time. It has 3 USB-C ports and 1 USB-A port, so it can fast charge Apple laptops, iPhones, Samsung Galaxy phones, iPads, Steam Decks, and lots more devices. Combine this charger with the RevoDock Pro, and you've got a great setup for travel or just everyday work. The Ugreen RevoDock Pro is a 9-in-1 hub that enables you to do more faster. I do a lot of video transfers, so I can use the RevoDock to transfer files from SD or micro SD card to my computer super fast. It can also connect to an external monitor via the 4K HDMI port for an external display. For the type of work I do, this thing is unbeatable. I've got it connected to my wireless mouse right now, and I've got 2 SD cards and a USB drive all inserted right now, so I can work on all of these memory storage devices all at once. The RevoDock Pro 9-in-1 hub does it all. I've posted a link in the description that you can click on to check out Ugreen's Black Friday deals that'll get you up to 50% off. Of course, I have my fume extractor going so I don't breathe in these nasty fumes. I'm going to start with these large ones. Go. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Getting close to halfway. So now all of the capacitors on the disk drive board have been replaced. Let's get this part back together and let's have a look at that laser and see if we need to adjust it, or I don't even know if we can tell if it needs to be adjusted, but that is an option for trying to get this thing working. Now, I am a little worried about this work right here, but if we do anything with this right now, we're not going to know whether the capacitors were the problem or not. So I'm going to continue putting it together, even though we need to check this work out under a microscope. And we'll just set the top on, just like that, and call it good. All right, let's give this thing a test and see if that was enough to fix this disk drive. Okay, do we have power? Yes. Okay, let's put a disk in and see what happens. Doesn't really sound or look any better so far. If anything, I think it's worse. I don't think it's gonna work. Nope. Okay, let's get this thing taken back apart and do some more work on that disk drive. Now, I think the next thing we need to do is have a look at this chip and this soldering, simply because it's further down into the system. So let's get this done so we know that it's good, and then we can get to the disk drive. The disk drive is super easy to get to, so it'll be much quicker to work on that than this part. So I'm going to get under the microscope so we can look at all of this solder work and redo any of it that needs to be redone. And looking at this solder work, it is not pretty. That being said, I think it actually is functional. Just going to check each of these joints real quick, but overall it actually looks decent. I mean, it doesn't look decent, but it does work. Now, I was also looking up mods on this, and this is a region-free mod. So this chip right here supposedly makes this a region-free system. So all that money I spent on getting that Japanese game, I didn't actually need to do that. But there was no way I knew, since I had never been inside the system before. So it is possible this chip is faulty as well. I don't think it is, but I mean, that is a possibility. So now that I've looked at that, as far as I can tell, this is probably, hopefully okay. Let's move on and do some more work on that disk drive. So the next thing I'm going to try and do is try reducing the resistance on the potentiometer to the laser. But first, let's take a reading to see what it is right now. We've got 734 ohms. All right. So what I want to do is turn this clockwise just a little tiny bit. I want to get it down to around 650. We're at 579. Let's go back up just a little bit. 580. 669, that is pretty close. So my goal in reducing the resistance on this potentiometer is to just put more power through the laser. Hopefully that will be enough to fix this thing. And my reading of 650 ohms is just based on what I've read on the internet from what works for other people. I can also replace that chip on the board, but I want to try this first since it's simple and easy. All right, now the good thing about testing this is we don't have to have the top on. We just need to make sure and push back on this lever once we have a disc in there so it thinks that the top is on. So let's see if we get power, and we do. So now we're going to put the disc in and close the door. Okay, this is good news. Please wait while disc is being checked. Come on. I feel good about this one. Come on. I don't know if that's a... There we go. That's working. That is amazing. So I don't even know if I had to replace those capacitors. I'm glad I did just because they get old and there was some that were bulged out. But this might have been simply a case of adjusting that potentiometer. Okay, now we've got the Japanese disc in here. Let's try playing an American disc and see if it'll play that one. There we go. All right, let's see if we have it up on the screen. And here we go. So the region-free mod is even working on this Dreamcast. So this turned out to actually be a pretty easy fix, and we've got a really cool special edition Dreamcast. If you like this type of video and you want to see more Sega Dreamcast content, I'm going to be sending this nasty, dirty Sega Dreamcast over to Robert on the Restorus channel, and he's going to do a deep clean on it. So I'll put that video up on your screen now, so you can go hang out over there and watch this thing get renewed to not totally new, but way better. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.